There are places in this world where the veil between our reality and something darker grows thin. Places where tragedy has left an indelible mark on the fabric of reality itself. In Oxford, Alabama, locals know of such a place, a seemingly ordinary concrete bridge that crosses Spring Creek. While maps might label it Spring Creek Bridge, everyone who grew up in Calhoun County knows it by a different name, Hell's Gate Bridge. As you drive through Oxford's winding back roads, the bridge doesn't immediately strike you as unusual. During daylight hours, it's just another aging piece of infrastructure, a concrete span stretching across murky waters, surrounded by thick Alabama woods and kudzu vines. The kind of place you might pass without a second thought. But as the sun sets and darkness creeps in, something changes. The air grows thick and heavy, even in the dead of winter. Local wildlife falls silent. Dogs refuse to cross it. And if you listen carefully, some say you can hear the faint echo of tires screeching against concrete, followed by a splash that never seems to come from any particular direction. Historical context. To understand why Hell's Gate Bridge holds such a dark reputation, we need to travel back to 1953. Oxford was a different place then, a small, tight-knit community where everyone knew their neighbors, and Friday night football games were the highlight of the week. It was the golden age of American optimism, when teenagers drove classic cars and gathered at local diners, their futures seeming as bright and endless as the Alabama sky. That spring, Oxford High School was preparing for its annual prom. Among the excited seniors were James Harrison and Mary Catherine Sullivan, high school sweethearts who'd been together since their sophomore year. James had just received a football scholarship to Auburn University, and Mary Catherine was set to join him there in the fall. They were the kind of couple other students looked up to, the embodiment of young love and future promise. The tragedy. The prom was held on April 15, 1953. According to witnesses, it was a perfect spring evening. James had borrowed his father's pristine 1951 Chevrolet Skyline for the occasion. Mary Catherine wore a powder blue dress she'd spent months saving up for at Miller's department store. They danced until the very last song. What happened next has become both historical fact and supernatural legend. The young couple left the prom around midnight, taking the back roads home, a common practice for teenagers looking for a few extra moments together before curfew. They were last seen turning onto the road that led to Spring Creek Bridge. The mystery. 3 days of frantic searching followed. The entire community came together, combing the woods and creek banks. On the fourth day, dive teams found the Chevrolet submerged in Spring Creek, directly beneath the bridge. The driver's door was open, but James and Mary Catherine were nowhere to be found. They haven't been seen since. The official investigation yielded more questions than answers. There were no skid marks on the bridge, no signs of collision. The car's brakes were in perfect working order. Even more puzzling, while the car showed clear signs of being submerged, the interior was completely dry, as if it had been meticulously cleaned. Mary Catherine's corsage was found on the bridge's railing, the flowers still fresh despite days of exposure to the elements. The haunting. It wasn't long after the tragedy that people began experiencing strange phenomena around the bridge. At first, it was subtle, unexplainable cold spots, the sound of distant music from the 1950s, the scent of Mary Catherine's signature gardenia perfume drifting through otherwise still air. Then the sightings began. Always at midnight, always following a specific pattern. Visitors who park their cars on the bridge and turn off their lights report seeing a fine mist rising from the creek below, regardless of weather conditions. In their rearview mirrors, they glimpse a young couple in vintage prom attire, their clothes dripping wet, their expressions a mixture of confusion and desperation. The rules. Over decades of encounters, a set of rules has emerged for those brave or foolish enough to visit Hell's Gate Bridge. Never look directly behind you when you see the couple in your mirror. Don't attempt to start your car until they've disappeared. Never, under any circumstances, remain on the bridge after the stroke of midnight. Those who've broken these rules report terrifying consequences. Some claim their cars won't start for days afterward. Others describe being followed by shadowy figures that disappear when directly observed. A few have experienced mysterious phone calls where all they hear is big band music and distant laughter. Modern day. Today, Hell's Gate Bridge stands as a dark landmark in Alabama's supernatural landscape. The Oxford Police Department maintains regular patrols around the area, particularly during prom season, trying to deter thrill seekers and paranormal investigators. But the legend persists. Local resident Margaret Wheeler, who's lived in Oxford for over 70 years, summarizes it best. Some places hold on to tragedy like a scar that never quite heals. That bridge. It's not just about what happened there, it's about what's still happening. Those young souls are still there, caught between one world and the next, trying to find their way home. Closing. So if you ever find yourself driving through Oxford, Alabama, and your GPS tries to direct you across an old concrete bridge over Spring Creek, maybe consider taking the long way around. Because at Hell's Gate Bridge, the past isn't really past, and some stories never end. They just keep playing out, night after night, waiting for new witnesses to their eternal tragedy. If you've experienced something strange at Hell's Gate Bridge, share your story in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more American urban legends. We're exploring the darkest tales from all 50 states, one bridge, one building, one backroad at a time.